welcome back actor and Peace One Day ambassador Jude Law, who is going to interview live from United Nations headquarters in New York, Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, Miss Amina Jane Mohammed. Welcome, Jude. Welcome, Miss Mohammed.
Hi there.
Hello.
Fantastic.
Well, on behalf of everyone at Peace One Day, Miss Mohammed, I'd like to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule and talking to us on this special day of celebration.
Well, thank you very much. It's a real pleasure to be with you all. Happy Peace Day, and I can see you've got the COVID look.
I have another excuse, but yes, I guess it is now becoming the COVID look, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Sadly, I never have the say in what my hair looks like. It's always the job I'm doing, but that's a small price to pay.
Great. Well, it's great with you.
Would you, for the benefit of everyone watching, tell us what your job as Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations entails?
Wow. Okay. On any one day. Well, first of all, I don't think of it as a job. For me, every day is just a privilege to be able to do the diverse number of things that I do, and that sort of followed me in my life from my background. But to come to the United Nations to be dealing with development at all the different levels we find it, whether it is with children, or it's maternal health, or it is livelihoods and social protection, or as the Deputy Secretary General, just supporting the work that we do on peacekeeping, humanitarian, the climate crisis that we have, or many crises around in conflict. And having just come from being a Minister of Environment in my country, Nigeria, that really just shows you the interaction between climate, conflict, and poverty. So it's very diverse. Every day I could be doing 5, 6, 7 different things. As now I come back from doing interviews and speeches and videos for the business community, different constituencies, whatever you say, the diversity of the member states, the diversity of business, and of the issues that we face. So it's very exciting, and I really do see it as a privilege and terribly humble to be able to do what I can do every day here. It's as they say, magic.
It sounds exciting. It also sounds like an extraordinary juggling act and demonstration of versatility. And what within that would you say still inspires you about the United Nations and what it stands for as an institution, as a functioning institution?
I think 2 things really. First, that I see this as a global town hall for our global village. So it's where everybody comes to in the GA, the General Assembly, and has a voice. And the reality on any given day could be really good or really miserable. The aspiration is really ambitious. It's about we the people. It's about our human rights. It's about making sure we leave no one behind. And there's often a gap between the two. Over the years, whichever Secretary General or Deputy comes on board. And our job is to give hope by trying to close that gap. And every day we work towards that. And it's different issues, different constituencies, and different context. So I would say that, being able to convene and being able always to provide some opportunity to push the needle towards making things better.
And obviously one of the key elements of that is peace. There is a goal for peace of the 17 goals, goal 16, peace and justice. And I wondered what you would say, how would you say this goal is fundamental really to the success of all the goals?
Well, first of all, knowing how that goal came about, it was the most difficult to negotiate, yet everyone from all sides came together to make that possible. And I remember when we were looking at the logos and what we were going to say that logo represented with Richard Curtis and our Swedish friend, first of all, it just said, it talked about peace, and that was incredibly important. It talked about justice, which is incredibly important, but it didn't talk about strong institutions. And by the time we got all 3 together, it was really apparent that without strong institutions, you would not have the tools and the wherewithal to get lasting peace, because you'd have to look at the root causes of conflict first before you could embark upon that journey to get peace. And so, as they say, no peace without development and no development without peace, and all of the two without human rights will go nowhere. So it's core to the 17 goals because it provides us the enabling environment to grow that stability out so that we can include everyone in a life of peace and prosperity, of course.
And on a day like today, when there are millions of people celebrating Peace Day, united around the globe, what would you say is the value of people standing together as one in the name of peace? You know, give us a little sense of, because I know people love being involved, they love participating, and coming onto an event like this can give you a sense of hope and connection. I just wondered whether you could give us a sense maybe of what the value is of us doing that, what it symbolizes.
Whenever we come together in the General Assembly on Peace Day and we speak about this, we see first the challenges, but actually the stories that we share and the solidarity between nations that have come to peace is extraordinary. And we sometimes forget about it until we come together to share that and remind ourselves that we're so lucky to have got the peace. What have we done with it? Responsibility. And there is so much more peace to be had, and hence the Secretary General's call for the ceasefire, but also peace in the home. And so, I mean, today it's a really great feeling because I'm listening to the speeches of heads of state and government, albeit surreal because it's the first virtual General Assembly that we've had. But those voices are powerful, and I'm looking to how many of them are talking about ending the conflicts and peace and leadership role in that, and community and solidarity. Many of those speeches are carrying those important remarks through them right now.
And is there something you would say individuals can do to keep supporting, to create a more peaceful world?
Absolutely.
Other than their involvement in Peace One Day.
Yes, no, I mean, peace. I was just reading through some of the successes of that, and I was, what touched me most was the number of people in a peaceful environment that was conflict, is still conflict to a certain extent, where you were able to do the vaccine campaign on polio. That matters to me because I just remember being one of those 4 countries in Nigeria, and where we missed was where we had Boko Haram in the northeast, and we didn't have the peace to get that final vaccine across. And so it matters so much. I think individually, you have to create the movements to make the difference. Individually, people part of the teams that will bring peace, not just at the table, but from the table into the communities. And women have a huge role to play here. I wish we would see more of them in the mediation teams. I think peace, right from, for me, peace comes from the home. And for every conflict, there are root causes. And I think that every individually and collectively can make a difference. But, the mindsets, if you come out there with, I'm going to make a difference. And I think that the whole attitude that you bring to it, you change mindsets, you bring people with you. And as Mandela had often said, it always seems absolutely impossible until it's done. And I think that's what you do. You go for the impossible because it is the right thing. And by God, at the end of it, if you've done what, pushed well enough, brought enough people along with you, you will make it. You certainly will.
One step at a time and one person at a time. That's a wonderful message. And every
person that you save, every person that you make a difference in their lives matters. I mean, it's huge to think about, I've got, several hundreds of millions to grapple with. But I think if you take satisfaction in that one person's life that is saved, is one person less that suffers. And I think it's really important to remember the people and not to get so hooked up by the figures and the percentages, that there's a face and there's a life and there's an opportunity behind that. And look at Malala. I mean, this is a young girl for education. She thought she was gone, and look at what she has mobilized. Yes. Or the young girl, Greta, that just decides enough is enough. And, against everything, she's up there and she's got this huge movement going. So from your individual conviction, you can pull the world with you.
To surmise, could you describe to us why you think the United Nations is such an important institution for today.
Well, I think never more have we needed a global response to this crisis that brought us to our knees, tiny little virus that we can't even see, and has brought how connected we are to each other, but it's also bared the fragilities of this family, this human family we have on this planet. And I think that, that reflection that COVID has allowed us should speak to us really investing now in tomorrow, the day after COVID, to come together. Where better a place than the UN? Because that is where everyone has an equal voice. We might not always get stuff done, but you have a voice, and you can bring that to the UN, and you can shape your future here. You can shape it in those countries. We have 131 offices around the world. It's a huge footprint, and you can use those offices to leverage that convening of different partners that come to the table. It doesn't have to just be done in New York, but you can do this around the world and bring people together for what we need so much more now, which is a global response to what is a global catastrophe, quite frankly. It's not over yet. We started locking down as a prescription to suppress the health pandemic, and we suddenly found ourselves with a side effect that was socioeconomic, which will go on for years after. So we need solidarity, and the UN is the best place to get that. But it is only as good as its ownership, and that is its member states. And if we're not seeing member states come together to appreciate the vehicle that they have to run with peace, to run with prosperity, to run with bringing the world along, then that's where I think people have to stand up and say, no, that's not what we put you there for. That's not why this was created. And remind us, as we do today, UN at 75 is a big reminder of why we came together in 1945 and what we should be thinking about going forward.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. And,
you're welcome, but I think I'm supposed to ask you a question, right?
Okay.
Yeah, here we go. So, no, but I have been thinking about it. I mean, it's a huge job to take on from the outside. We sort of live with this day and night in its diversity. So, I mean, you've done amazing work, but what is it that's giving you the hope and gets you up in the morning to do even more for humanity?
I would say people like yourself and the people at organizations like Peace One Day and the organizations that Peace One Day introduced me to. And on a day like this and a celebration like this, everybody involved, whether they're at home logging in around the world from their homes or whether they are behind the scenes, the sense of that something can be done, that something positive can be done, the curiosity of how one can get involved and make a difference. I find that incredibly hopeful, and in a funny way, it's very similar to the connection I like to make as an actor, which is just, person to person. It's humbling, and it's also hugely uplifting, the sense of humanity that bonds us all, the questions we have and the highs we have and the lows we have that we all share, united. The clue is in the name, the United Nations, united people. Unity really gives me hope.
That's fantastic. We just had the broadcast that Richard Curtis helped us do, and we flipped it and we called it Nations United.
Great.
And it is for the decade. It is to do more to get peace one day. Everybody strives for that, and I hope that we can continue to work together with you on this. But thank you for all you do and what you will do.
Thank you, and thank you for your time.
You're
Happy
welcome.
Peace Day.
Yes, Happy Peace Day, and so UN at 75 too.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, actually a big wow, I think, Jeremy. Once again, thanks for the tremendous support from Miss Deputy Secretary General Amina Mohammed. And thanks to Jude for that beautiful, elegant, intense, inspiring interview. Great interview.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely, Ahmed. My thanks to the Deputy Secretary General. I mean, amazing. And many thanks, of course, to Jude for being with us today and for all of his support in terms of producing today's activity.